From the director of Troll Hunter and the terrific Autopsy of Jane Doe comes Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Produced by Guillermo del Toro, this horror movie for teenage kids revolves around Stella, a girl who, along with her friends, decides to break into the local spooky house just for some thrills on Halloween night. Now, there is a legend about a girl who was kept locked away here in the basement, who used to tell scary stories to the townsfolk's kids who would come up and listen through the wall. And Stella discovers this book that was a prized possession of the ghostly spirit, and as she flicks through it at home, stories start to appear involving her friends or people she knows dying in horrific fashions. That's the basic setup of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and it is very much an entry-level horror movie that does rely a little bit too much on CGI for its own goodness. I'm a great fan of practical stuff. I want to see some kind of tangible horror element within a movie, and this just goes to the CGI well a little bit too much for me. The characters are atypical of the kind of characters you would get in these movies. There is nothing new here. You take one look at them and you know roughly where they're all going to end up and how they're going to evolve throughout the story, if at all. There is some nice moments of atmosphere and scares, particularly the story about Harold and the scarecrow within the cornfield. That is really well set up, really well directed, and has that strange kind of hairs in the back of the neck stand-up moment. The other disappearances or deaths of the kids within the movie are a little bit more CGI heavy, and thus it's robbed of any real threat or scares. It's an interesting way of really tying in an anthology movie into the larger scope of things as well, because it is really small little nitbit stories of horror that are tied together to create this larger tale. Again, with most horror movies, you get characters making these decisions that you're screaming at the screen just not to do. You don't want them to make these mistakes, but they're going to do them anyway, regardless of what you're saying. Some of the ideas behind the stories are fun enough, but again, it isn't too developed. It isn't enough to really carry on. The movie runs out of steam about the 40 minutes mark. There is a rather bit of a strange ending where I was expecting something to happen. I was expecting a kind of happy-ish ending overall. It doesn't quite get there, and I was happy that they took that turn. It's a strange mismatch of a movie. At one point there is strong horror elements, a nice idea behind it, and some really good heavy horror elements, but it's really watered down in certain places as well, becoming tropey and familiar and not that exciting. I loved the initial Harold attack, the scarecrow, like I mentioned. I felt that was expertly done. It builds up the tension, the atmosphere, has spooky tropes that work and are done and shot well, and then we move on to the rest of the tales. The lighting aren't as great, the designs aren't as great, what happens feels a little bit implausible and not as exciting as some of the other tales, and it's not as well done, and that's when it starts to lose its steam, and you can start to see how it's stitched together and the way that it's going to end up. You're starting to judge the story a little bit more distantly than you first did, because you're not as into it as you were at the start of the movie, or at least that's how I felt. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was something that I was really excited about checking out, but ultimately left me very underwhelmed. It's not one that I really want to go back to again. I just feel as if it was lacking in some way, shape or form. I'd love to know your opinion of the movie. Let me know in the comment box below, and I'll see you next time on Man vs Film.